Hi everyone, welcome to DevOps Info channel. Today we are going to take a look at how to get started with Microsoft Sentinel because I received a handful of requests to put a video on Sentinel and I thought it's a good idea to explore and start a series of video on this cloud native SIEM solution. As we all know, it's close to 4 years that Azure Sentinel has been in the market, and a lot of organizations are utilizing them fully as a Secops SIEM solution. And this cloud native tool has been doing a great job. And we also know that many businesses are heavily adopted to Office 365. They're expanding their use to the sophisticated security and compliance tools that comes along with this bundle or with an extra investment. To fully comprehend an attack, you frequently need to have a mix of the ecosystem, uh, or you need to collect the data from the users as well as from the application. So having this kind of cloud native solution will help you accomplish all this kind of settings and while staying within a single cloud provider, because your same solution is also going to come from Microsoft, where you can integrate your data from multiple sources. Let it be even a non-Microsoft ecosystem. There is possibility to integrate. So all these things brings a very comprehensive solution, and it has been always doing a great job for the last 4 years. Um, and in short, we all know Azure Sentinel is a SIEM solution. For people who do not know, SIEM is like a security information and event management team, which is used to monitor security events in your ecosystem. And also, it is a SOAR solution. SOAR is a security orchestration, automation, and response. So, if any security event occurs, then the SOAR is something like it could automatically respond to those kind of incidents. So, having a combination of SIEM and a SOAR solution in Microsoft Azure Sentinel, it gives you a simplified environment, and then you are keeping this on the same Microsoft ecosystem. So today in this video, let's take a look at how to get started with Azure Sentinel by setting them as a first task for your cloud as well as the local resources. There are a few prerequisites that we need to meet. The first thing is like you need to have a Azure subscription to create the Sentinel. And the other important thing is like Sentinel is dependent on a core component in the backend to collect the logs from the data sources. If you already worked with Azure Log Analytics, this is not a new topic for you because Azure Sentinel is wholly dependent on the Azure Log Analytics to ingest the data from multiple sources. So the first thing is like we need to create the Log Analytic workspace, which we would take a look at them in a few minutes. And then you also need to keep this in mind that few hygiene practices we need to take a look in setting up the whole solution. So in short, like first you need to set up the log analytic workspace, and then you need to choose what are the components that you need to monitor and what are the actions and what are the triggers and actions you need to define, and then monitor your environment. So the first thing, in order to create log analytic workspace, that's the first thing, because if you see here, this is the Microsoft Sentinel. How in order to access the Microsoft Sentinel, you need to go to Home, search for Microsoft Sentinel, and it takes you to this page. So when you try to click on Create, it would ask you to choose a workspace, because this is something, the log analytics workspace. So basically, a log analytic workspace is something, a workspace which is created in your resource group, where you can ingest the data from multiple sources. So in our case, like I have already created a Sentinel, so that's the reason it's not showing a workspace. So when you're creating a Sentinel, it would ask you to choose a workspace. So for example, in my case, I'm going into the let me go into the resource group. I would show you what workspace I created, so that would give you a clear idea. So this is one of the resource group which I've created. So in this resource group, I am going to show you the workspace which I created. So if you see this, the SOC monitoring, that's a log analytic workspace which I created before creating the solution, which is the Sentinel, which is the security insights SOC monitoring. That's one of the Sentinel workspace I created. So Sentinel solution I created, but for that solution is fully dependent on the log analytics workspace. So let's go into the log analytics workspace as a first thing. So in order to show you, like in order to create a workspace, it's a very simple thing. You go to the log analytics workspace in the Azure portal, create a new workspace. It's going to ask you what resource groups it's going to be. Choose the resource group, workspace name, and then location. Yes, this is one of the important thing because the first thing we need to do is like you need to keep this in mind. Like there are a few hygiene practices which you need to keep in mind because this workspace which you have created is always better. You create it on the location where your data resides. For example, if your Office 365 data resides in the Western Europe, then it's always advisable to create it on that same location. And also, for example, whatever the resources that you created in Azure, if it resides in this Western Europe, then you choose the same place so that your logs which is saved to the Sentinel also present in the same location. So this keeps you all your compliance requirements intact, so you are not getting into any kind of later regulatory issues. Yep. So and then here you choose the pricing tier, and then these are the basic things. You create the workspace, and after creating the workspace, the important thing is you need to connect a data source because you have created a workspace which is empty. It has not received any data. So the next thing is you need to start receiving data into this workspace. So here for the Azure, for example, if you are running few VMs on the Azure, it's very easy. You need to just click on the Azure virtual machines. And then here in my example, I have few of them running. So all you need to do is just click on the virtual machine which you want to connect. And then you have an option to click on connect. So what it does is like the moment when you click on connect, it is going to do a direct connect from the Azure VM to this workspace because the Azure VMs by default they would have some connection. I'm not sure if it's having a log analytics monitoring Microsoft monitoring agent installed or how the connection works. I need to look into that. Probably I would come back to you on that topic. But when you do this connect, it is something like establishing a direct connect from the Azure virtual machine towards this workspace. So this is going to be an easy task. But just in case, if you want to send these logs from VM or physical machine which is running on your data center, then all you need to do is just go into the SOC monitor. Here you have the Windows and Linux agents management. You need to go ahead and click on the drop down. When you click on the drop down, there you get Windows 32 or 64-bit agent. You need to download that agent, and then it will show you the workspace and the key. I don't want to click on the drop down because then it would expose my key. So the moment when you click on the drop down in the log analytics agent instruction, you would see the agent 32 or 64-bit. You can download according to your configuration, and then install them on your locally on the physical machine or the VM running in your data center, and then you need to go into the control panel. In the control panel, you have to select the Azure OMS, and then there you need to add the workspace ID and the key that is showing here. So the moment when you add the workspace ID and key, your VM or the physical machine is going to establish a connection from your data center towards this workspace. So and also the important thing you need to keep in mind is you need to have the connectivity opened towards the Azure traffic to uh, to make sure the outbound connections are successfully established from your physical machine towards the log analytics workspace. So this is the thing that you need to keep in mind for your Windows servers. If it is running in the on-premise, just download the agent, install them. You can do that via the Intune, or if you can also do it locally via the SCCM if they are managed locally for the bulk installation. And for the Linux servers, yes, you also have the option to download the agent, and you need to configure the key. And the moment after you do that, then even your Linux computers are connected. So this is only for monitoring any VMs that is running in the Azure or any physical machines that you want to monitor from your data center. Um, from your on-premise data center. And also you have the connect data source to a storage account and system center operations manager. These are the ways that you can do for receiving data source to this log analytics workspace. This is the first things that you need to keep in mind when setting up the log analytics workspace. Um, and also the other important thing is you need to keep in mind about the usage and the estimated cost. This is something I would always recommend. So when you go into the usage and estimated cost, then it is something like you have the daily cap. Uh, what I would say is, like, even if you're running it for your POC, or if you're running it for your production, I would always suggest to plan how much data that you're going to get in your workspace, because a cost is involved at the end for this. So it's very important that how much data you're going to receive from the data sources. Like, for example, if you set up from 3 or 4 applications I want to monitor, then you need to first understand how much amount of data that's going to send, so that according to that you would be able to estimate the cost. So in my example, I have just set a daily volume cap as 5 gigs a day. You can also do that. Like, you are keeping control of the usage and the cost. Just in case if it is a huge enterprise environment, then you need to go with the planning and then set up the cap limit accordingly. Uh, so this is one of the best feature you have here to control the cap limit. And the next thing is, like, you need to go into the data retention. By default, the data retention is set for 30 days with a pricing plan. So you need to increase the data retention according to your requirement. So keep in mind, you need to think of setting up the daily cap and the data retention. And there are options where you can see the usage details and insights that's completely associated with Azure Log Analytics. I would also suggest to take a look at that so that you would understand how much amount of data that you're receiving from different sources when you set up this for a month or a couple of months. You can have a look at it to see from where you get more amount of logs. Okay, so this is the first thing that you need to set up the log analytics workspace. After setting up the log analytics workspace, you need to go back to the Azure Sentinel. I would show you. So here is the Azure Sentinel. In the Azure Sentinel, I've already set up a new Sentinel. I just went here, I created a Sentinel. So when creating a Sentinel, I need to select the workspace. I've already selected the workspace, and that's the reason I see it here. So what we did, we configured few things on the log analytics workspace to receive the logs from the VMs running on the Azure, and for the logs that needs to be received from the Office 365, you could just drop down, and here you have something called data connectors. There is already a blog about this. I think I have already written about the same for Office 365 in the year 2020. You can also take a look at that. It's present in my website, easycloudinfo.com. But here, when you come into the data connectors, you have something connectors which is available by default. You can use these connectors. For example, even if I want to connect Amazon, I have an option to receive logs from Amazon. This is what I was telling in the beginning, because you have a Microsoft SIEM and so monitoring solution, where you have option to monitor all your multi-cloud environments, and then report and keep them in one place. So here there are multiple places where you can receive the logs through these connectors. In our example, what I have done is I have just selected only Microsoft ecosystem, which is for Office 365, Microsoft Defender for Office 365, and Azure Active Directory. And this is also something you need to keep in mind if you want to receive the event logs from your mission which is running in the on-premise. You can also do it directly. Windows security events. When you enable this, even from the machine which is running in the Azure VM. You no need to collect the data source. Like at the moment, we have configured in the log analytics workspace to receive the logs, but here the moment when you select Windows security events, it will select only the Windows logs and then send it to your log analytics workspace. We will take a look at that one by one. So when looking into the Office 365, in the Open Connector page, you see something called the configuration. In the configuration, there is an option to choose the Office 365 activity logs to Microsoft Sentinel. At the moment, we have three options. You could receive the record types for Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams. I would say these are the three main applications which is mostly utilized by everyone. So using this configuration in your tenant would really going to help in monitoring any kind of events that is happening on your any kind of security events that's happening on this application. So in my case, I have selected these three, and then just clicked on save. So here, after doing that, then you would start receiving the activity logs that is going to come from these three places. This is the data connector for Office 365, and the next thing is we are going to look for just a second. Yeah, we are going to look for the Windows security events. So this is what I was talking about. The Windows security events is you can stream the logs that is coming from the Windows machines connected to your Microsoft Sentinel workspace using the Windows agent. Yes, so here I have the Sentinel workspace, which I was showing you a few minutes back. So that is, receiving the logs through the Windows agent, which is configured. So here, this connection will enable you to view the dashboards. So here, what I have done is, if you scroll down, you can just set up your own data collection rule. In my example, I'm just clicking on edit to show you what I have done. So here I have selected the option to choose to receive only security events. If I want to receive common events, I can also do that. If I want to receive minimal, I can do. And then there's an option to call custom, where you can also add your expressions. Based on the expressions, you would be receiving event logs. So I would suggest to work a lot on this part, because when you're especially working for a huge enterprise, it's not something like you can select all security events, and then your workspace is going to create them all in one workspace, where one workspace is going to receive a huge number of logs. Then it will be really difficult to do the query and create the logic to understand the incident. So I would say you need to work and plan carefully when you're doing it in a huge enterprise environment. So here in my case, I have just selected all security events, and then since I have selected only for two VMs, I have selected all security events, and then clicked on completed the configuration. Excuse me. Uh, so this is what we saw in the data connectors, and then we also have something called uh, the Defender for Office 365 preview. In this Defender for Office 365 preview, you also have option to receive, the alerts that is coming from the Microsoft Defender for Office 365. And with this, like, you can also uh, see these are the following types of alerts that will be important, like potential malicious URL, email messages containing malware, user restricted from sending email reported by user as malware or phishing. All these things would be reported to your Sentinel through this configuration. Going back further in the Microsoft Sentinel, so you can come back to your connectors, and in the connectors, you're just going to verify that if they are sending the data. So in our case, like I'm just going into the Windows security events, open the connector page. There you could get some directions of how to get started with this. Uh, you could see this. Okay, so here are the instructions and the next steps. For example, I wanted to make sure that the the agent that we installed and set up in the log analytics on the Azure VM, we want to make sure that it is already sent to the Sentinel. So this is here. There is one query sample which is defined. When I click on run, we are going to be redirected to the log analytics workspace to see like if we have received any alerts. So I'm just selecting last 12 hours and just trying to see if I have received any events, security events from the the VMs which is running on the Azure. Let's see. It's doing something. We need to give it a few seconds. Yeah. So you could see uh, I have received the events from the VMs which is running on the Azure. So I have seen like this is the DC which is running on the Azure. Like it is sending me the events. These are the security events, event source, channel and security level, event ID, and activity. What was the activity? Account was logged in because that's the SQL account, and then the information. What are the information I need? I have received. If I want to further customize the log analytics with the custom query language, yes, I can do that. But now this is very clear for us. Like we are receiving the events from the VM which is running, because I have two computers, because one is HQ, which is the domain controller, and also I have one more Skype which is running. Yeah, this is the Skype 2015 that was used for testing. So yeah, it is receiving events, security events from the domain controller as well as the Skype. So which is like we are in a good shape, and then we can further customize the SIM solution for the VMs. So the next part is like, for example, if you need to verify where, like if you're receiving the data from the Office 365, so you're just going to click on that and then click on the Open Connector page. So here it is going to take you to the configuration. So here we have already selected Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams. So going in the next step, you have a few query samples. Like if you want to verify if you have receiving any logs from Exchange, I'm just running this time range. I wanted to select last 7 days, run it, and then it could show me the activity that I have received. Yeah, mail items accessed. So these are the examples, to verify that your data configuration to the log analytics workspace, and the Sentinel is perfect. They are receiving the data, and going further into the hunting, and then creating the analytics. That is really a very interesting part to talk a lot about the analytics, because the logic apps is the backbone of the Sentinel, because Microsoft Sentinel data connector, more or less they are based on the workflows which is built in the Azure logic apps. And then the logic apps is like something, as you know already, it's a low code platform where you can define a trigger, and based on the trigger you can also define some action. That's the way the logic apps is designed in the Microsoft to simplify an application with a low code. Creating that analytics, and then setting up the automation, we would have a separate session, because combining that would bring a a vast big session. So I don't want to bring that into this video. So this is the first thing that you need to set up if you want Sentinel to keep as a security event monitoring and a source solution. And then in the next upcoming video, we will take a look at how to effectively utilize Sentinel for the Office 365 and a few other services. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you.